Hi, welcome to Think Tech. We are raising public awareness about technology, energy, diversity, and globalization. I am your host, Donna Blanchard. This show is Center Stage, and we are coming to you from Pioneer Plaza in the heart of downtown Honolulu, very near Kumu Kahua Theatre, where I am also the managing director. I would like to let you know if you'd ever like to join us in our studio audience for these shows, you may do so. Just email Jay at thinktechhawaii.com and he will hook you up. If you would like to join our conversation, you may do so on Twitter, ThinkTechHI, that's us. I am very happy to introduce to you two ladies who are presenting a show at Kumu Kahua Theatre as part of our Dark Night series. The show is called Money Talks, But What the Hell Is It Saying? And the women who are here today are Lucie Lynch and Marcia Zina Major. Thank you very much for being here, ladies.
Well, thank you so much for having us on the show.
Thank you.
I am really excited to talk about your show because it's something very, very different. And it is something that I love about theater is you're bringing entertainment along with a message, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I haven't seen it, so it's even more fun. I get to ask you tons of questions about it. Can we start off by saying, let's talk about the development of the show. How did this begin? How did the two of you meet?
That's a juicy question.
Oh, good.
So maybe we do it a little bit like in the show.
Well, I was going to say it's a juicy question that is also included in the show, but we'll include it
in the interview here.
in the interview.
Yeah.
Take it away, Lucy.
Exactly. Once upon so
Can you sing it?
Exactly. I could sing it. Basically, when I was around 22, and I don't say the years how far that is back. But when I was 22, my mother gave me a book, and it was a book about fairies and nature spirits and how you can connect with them. And I was so into fairies in those days. And after reading that book, I even started fairy performances in Hamburg, Germany, where I'm from originally. So I would dress up as a fairy and go into the city and into the parks and would just do my magic spell on people, put my magic spell on people. So that was like kind of my hobby.
How adorable.
And I really, really loved it a lot. And then a long journey began, and I moved to Hawaii at some point, which is now, it was 2011, I moved to Hawaii. And then a year after I moved here, a friend of mine said to me, you have to meet this woman, Marcia Zina Major. You guys, you have to do something together. He didn't know what, but he said, you guys have to meet, you're like soul sisters, you gotta do something together. And we, I don't know if I called you or emailed Marcia, I guess, and we said, okay, let's meet at Mocha Java Cafe in Honolulu. And I showed up, and Marcia showed up.
And so I'll take the story from there. So if we go back in my history, when I moved to Hawaii in 1992, I was already an author. My background is I've written 10 books. I was a romance novelist. I've been writing professionally for more than 30 years. And when I moved to Hawaii in 1992, something strange happened to me. I was riding my bicycle in Kailua in Oahu, and all of a sudden a hibiscus bush shouted at me. And this is the truth, I got off my bicycle, took out my journal, sat down, and thus begun about a 3-week window into another realm where I was basically sort of downloading all this information from nature. And it was like a treatise from what the book that I ended up writing, from what was called the Hidden Kingdom. In other words, the part of nature that is alive and divine. And I ended up writing this manuscript over a 3-week period, I mean, almost like in a fever. And finished it, didn't know what to do with it, was very embarrassed because it was a book about fairies. It was a book about these ambassadors of nature that were called fairies, and I didn't know what to do with it. I was very embarrassed. I shoved it in a drawer. Fast forward, 7 years went by. I was pregnant at 44, decided I have to do something with the manuscript, sent it to a British publisher because in England, they believe in fairies. It's a part of their culture. He loved the book, fell in love with it. It became a bestseller in Germany, Switzerland, and Austria, and it was translated into numerous languages. And the book is called "Believing in Fairies: A Manual for Grown-Ups." So back to Mocha Java Cafe. So I know I'm going to meet this German woman, and I have my book was a bestseller in Germany, so I have the German version of the book. And I'm always so proud, but I don't know very many Germans. So I always want to show off my book to any Germans. So I bring the book with me. I show up at the Mocha Java, I sit down at the table and I say,
First
"Look,"
thing, like so New York.
I say,
you know,
"Lucy,
hey!
look, this is the German version of a book I wrote."
And then it was the book, right? It was the book my mother gave me when I was 22. So I almost fell backwards off of my chair, and I was like, I know that book. Like, I know the book from beginning to end, backwards, forwards. And what's so beautiful about that book, I gave it also to a lot of my girlfriends. So it was really a very big part of my life. And then actually we met, and probably a few months later, maybe 3-4 months later, I got married. And one of my German girlfriends came over from Germany, and she made me a photo book about our friendship. And on the cover was a photo of Marcia's book in her garden in Germany, photographed because it was a connection for her and me as well. So it's just very magical.
So,
and that's how it all began.
it was very clear when we met that something very magical had brought us together. I mean, what are the chances
Fairies.
of this? Right.
Very
Clearly.
And Lucy had written a very successful one-woman musical show that she toured with in Germany for 4 years. I mean, this is what I discover as we become friends. I wrote a one-woman musical show that I performed numerous times in Oahu a little bit before that period. And so we kind of looked at each other and said, you know, we must be destined to do something together, but what should we do?
So first of all, we thought maybe just combining our talents. You know, Marcia is an amazing poet, slam poet, and I'm the musician and a songwriter. So we decided to just organize an evening where we basically, you know, we trade poems and songs and try to weave them together in a very nice way. And we did that, and it was okay, but it was not really a thrill or anything.
Right.
You know, we were not going away from it. Oh my God, we have to tour the world with it or something. So it was like, oh, that was nice.
We were in the process of trying to discover creatively
Yeah.
what we were supposed to do together. And so what happened naturally, to just go back directly to your question, is that in becoming friends and getting to know each other, what we discovered was that even though there's a big age difference, 38, 61 right now. When we met, it was, 36 and 59 or whatever. We were both struggling artists. I mean, here I had this modicum of success, 10 published books, international bestsellers, hit musical all over Germany, but our bank accounts didn't reflect it. And here we were living in Hawaii, incredibly expensive. We were both married, so we had husbands who were also working, but we were really frustrated. We were frustrated about this whole issue about money and bank accounts and how do you make it and how do you make a living and why, will artists, it was that whole conversation.
How do you put a price to something like that? You know, how do you put a price to a song or a poet? How does a poet make money? And like how, so that was really a question we had.
Yeah, and also this whole question of is the fact that we weren't hugely successful seemed to impact our sense of self-worth. And should it really do that? You know what I mean? Just because you're not making money from your poetry or your songs, does that mean you're not good? But that the world sees it a certain way. So through that process, we decided we would start to do something. I'm kind of shortening the story.
Yeah, let's do that.
In a moment, we said, let's write a Broadway musical about money. Let's put all of our frustration and all of our upset and at times despair, and let's just write a Broadway musical, and let's pretend we have $1 million budget, and boom.
And we were at Mocha Java Cafe, and it just came,
This
the
all happened at
songs-
your first meeting?
No.
No, we started meeting, but
started
probably
meeting regularly.
But I mean, this is like maybe the 5th or 6th meeting. We started already, and we had these ideas coming up, and then I started singing into the iPhone, and then
We just started. It was just so goofy, and we just decided to have fun, and we started writing original music, original lyrics, and imagining we had $1 million budget, and imagining choreographers, and so this Broadway musical idea was born called Ka-Ching, a supernatural comedy about the drama of love and money. And we were having a grand old time writing it, and 18 months went by, and we found a composer in LA, and a lot of this is in our show. People, the audience will get to see a glimpse of this. And we started working with somebody, but it was very frustrating. As you can imagine, I mean, you don't just write a Broadway show, and we had no clue about anything. And we in that process, we also got frustrated because it's a slow process. And one day, once again, at Mocha Java Cafe, we were sitting there and we said, why don't we write a two-woman musical about the two of us trying to write a Broadway musical? and ta-da, Money Talks, but what the hell is it saying is born. So it's the story of our struggle as artists in Hawaii with money, trying to write a Broadway musical about money. Is that a long-winded answer?
I love
I'm
it.
very inspired by my husband and I were very involved here in the whole TEDx movement in Honolulu, TED Talks, inspirational talks of some sorts. And usually they're only 18 minutes, but Marcia and I decided we don't want to, limit ourselves with 18 minutes of a talk. So we said, let's do an inspirational talk about this journey that we're going through as creatives creating this show. And then we didn't even plan on writing a two-woman musical. We just thought we'd just write a talk. And then what came out of it is really beautiful. I'm really
and the reason we
excited
actually
about
wrote it as a two-woman musical is because in this process we discovered that there was a fringe festival going on at Arts at Mark's Garage, and we said, let's enter it, even though we had no script and we just had an idea, and we entered it, and then basically in about 60 days we wrote this show that is playing at Kumu Kahua, and we just stumbled on a talented musician and said, would you work with us? And we played him the music from the iPhone. Could you make this into a song? And that's the way the show was born, and it's been continually tweaked, and we now have Raz Katrakia as our musical director. We have another musician working with us, Bob Weirman. And so, but it is basically an inspirational talk, an intimate conversation with the audience about our struggles as an artist, our struggles with money, our struggles with self-worth, and showing them glimpses of the progress of the Broadway musical. That's the show.
I love it. I love it. And that brings us to our first break. My gosh. Okay, so stay put for just a moment. You stay put for just a moment. We're going to come right back and we're going to continue this amazing story of Money Talks, but what the hell is it saying? We'll be right back.
Aloha, this is Reg Baker and I am the host of Business in Hawaii. We talk about positive stories of businesses in Hawaii, how they have been successful and how they have overcome some of the obstacles that a lot of us encounter when we try to have a business here. And believe it or not, there are a number of positive stories here, and we want to talk to all of you. So we broadcast live every Thursday at 2 o'clock. And it rebroadcasts again on Olelo Channel 54. So I sure hope to see you next time. Please tune in on Thursdays at 2 o'clock. Thank you.
Aloha, this is Maria Mera, and I'm here to invite you to my bilingual show, Viva Hawaii on Think Tech Hawaii, every other Monday at 3 p.m. We're here to inform, motivate, and entertain you. Join us. Hola, soy María Mera y estoy aquí para invitaros a mi show bilingüe Viva Hawaii en Think Tech Hawaii cada 2 lunes a las 3 de la tarde. Estamos aquí para informaros, motivaros y entreteneros. Apuntaros.
Hi, we're back on center stage. I am your host, Donna Blanchard, proud managing director of Kumu Kahua Theatre. I'm talking with Lucie Lynch and Marcia Zina Major. Marcia Zina, warrior princess. I don't know why I can't get that out of my head.
I understand.
But you two are like warriors with this incredible story, and I love the fact that, first of all, as an artist myself, and I've interviewed countless artists, and we always get stymied when you get to that point of how do you put $1 to your art? I have a good friend who's a painter right now whose paintings were selling really well, and he was loving it and painting a lot. They aren't selling so well for, who knows why. And he's fallen out of love with painting, and that never happened. That never would have happened before someone said, hey, you should start selling your paintings. And he attached it to the $sign. It really changed the art for him. So I love that part of the conversation. But I also love the kismet part of the story, and I thoroughly believe this is how I ended up here in Hawaii. When you follow your dream, when you say, this is where I belong, this is my priority, then things just kind of fall into place for you. And an interesting note, did you know that when the word priority first showed up in the English language, it was always singular? For 400 years it was singular. until someone decided to make it plural. But before then, the word was meant to be
Oh, only
priority.
priority,
You can
not-
only have one. It's that big.
Oh, wow, interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
very interesting,
That
yeah.
kind of blew my mind. Okay, so let's go back and break the story down a little bit if we could, because I don't want to get into too much that's actually on stage because we want people to come see
Yeah,
the show.
We haven't revealed what's
No.
on stage at
Okay,
all.
okay, good. We don't,
Other than the two of us.
Exactly.
okay, which
You
right there
will.
is worth the price of admission.
All right.
Can we talk a little more about fairies?
Oh, yeah, sure.
You felt like this hydrangea, was it a
It was
hydrangea?
a
hibiscus?
hibiscus. It was a red hibiscus
Was
bush.
speaking to you.
Yeah, well, I'll go out on a limb and I'll be bold enough to say I didn't feel like it. It spoke to me. So you have to understand that before that moment, I had no interest in fairies. I thought fairies were stupid. I thought fairies were Tinkerbell. I was a New Yorker that moved to Hawaii. I dressed in black. So this was a kind of tough experience for me because I was gripped with this incredible experience of trees talking to me and orchids talking to me and waking up in the middle of the night and writing these, I mean, it was really like, I felt like a window opened and I had a fever and then the fever left and I was looking at a 200-page manuscript that I didn't know what to do with and I was actually embarrassed about and I said earlier, 7 years it took. I put it in a drawer for almost 7 years because I believe that it really took me that many years to grow into the content. I mean, it was and to really accept it and embrace it and not be embarrassed because I was in this whole New Yorker identity. If this isn't cool, and there were no books about fairies back then. I mean, now there's lots of them, but so. And the book is still for sale, on Amazon, and it still sells. And it's a very profound book that has great meaning to me. And the content changed my life. I mean, I can't walk past a bush anymore. It's not the same. So it was a very life-changing
It
experience.
was really
for me.
moving for you know about the menehune.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
You think, oh, well, look at that. Believing in Fairies, a manual for grown-ups.
Oh, look at that. Yes, that's the cover.
Nice. So, yeah, I agree. That's not the sort of book you would expect a New Yorker to write. However, if you talk with very many Hawaiian people, they'd say, oh, yeah, they've all had some sort of experience with the menehune. So, I don't know, maybe you were moved that way?
Well, it happened in Hawaii. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah, they were speaking
I mean,
to
I
you?
think Lucy had so much. I mean, Lucy was the one that had the real fairy connection. I mean,
Yeah,
I didn't have a fairy connection until the book was given to me, but.
For me, it started mainly, I think, with my inward journey that began pretty early in my life, where I kind of realized the outside world is pretty much a reflection of what's going on inside me. So I went more inward, and during that process, I started a Gestalt therapy, which is like a form of therapy that gives life to your emotions. So fear becomes a person, love becomes a person. So you have then all these people with who you kind of like a committee in your head. So, and that was during my acting career, or when I studied acting, I took that concept and I created this theater form that's probably a little bit like psychodrama, but not as dramatic. So I had a group of actors with another theater therapist where we would work with these inner characters, with fear. So you put fear on stage and then you act as your own fear, and therefore it becomes less scary and you can understand it more, you get compassionate. And so the anger, fear, but also love, and this kind of when you're just freshly in love with somebody, this kind of fairy that comes with her rainbow bubbles and just floats around. It's all great, we're just so in love. So we had a lot of fun with creating those characters. And this theater therapist, he was a fairy, like literally. He was all about fairies. So, and we had this theater group and a big project, and I moved in with him for a while, and I got so immersed in this fairy world that we were in the garden and we lived on a houseboat and we had like a garden on the houseboat, and I was constantly in this spirit, and then I very clearly got this message: I have to dress up as a fairy and do performances. And I did them.
If we would have met then, I would be so
She would have
uninterested.
been like-
I would have run in the other direction, like, who's this weirdo?
What a freak. So I would book places I will never forget my first performance when I got the calling first. I booked a restaurant. I asked the owner if we could do something like that. And he's like, okay, let's try it. I said, I'm going to show up and I'm just going to do something. And I tried really hard to sit down and write something and prepare. And all I got was, you just do it. We don't tell you what you're going to say. You just do it. So the people came and it was sold out and they were there. They had their dinner. And then it was my time. And I entered that room and it was like as if something took over and this poetry came through and song and I was moving around as a fairy and after that I really knew, man, like if you really open and you connect to spirit or however you want to call it, you don't need a script for anything. You can just do it. And so that was my fairy, embodied fairy, basically, yeah.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is very interesting. That takes a lot of guts to do something like that.
A lot of guts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
And it's still my favorite. Like for me, it's still, I'm much better if I'm not prepared.
Mm. Well, you have to trust yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And everything and everyone around you, because everyone becomes a part of
Exactly. It
the
becomes,
show.
Yeah.
And it also is like, I studied improv. I mean, so it really has those same elements of improv. I was fortunate enough to study with Alan Arkin, and I studied here with Alan Arkin and here with the improv theater that used to be in Chinatown that was run by Shannon Winpenny. But it's that same thing. I mean, and we bring an element of that to the show. I mean, improv is you're not prepared. I mean, and you have to be present and you have to really listen to them. I mean, truthfully, isn't that all acting, right? I mean,
Theater,
especially live
always.
theater, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you never know what's going to happen. And yes, you might have lines and blocking and things like that, but all kinds of things can go wrong. So, you know, I think that's why I love improv too, and why it's scary as well, you know.
That's when the best things
Right.
often happen, is when something happens that is not according to the
It
script.
takes you out of your routine, out of your daily, oh, I go there, I go to the fridge, I take this, you know, I feed the dog, I feed the cat, kind of, but then improv, boom, you know, and that, like, I don't know, if out of the blue a mouse appears in the kitchen, you know, that's improv to me. Then you have to, oh, whoa, that was different, I gotta react to this, right? And then we see how do we really react, and there are days when we're in a good spirit and then we're like, oh, mouse, great, let's catch it. You know, you talk to the cat to catch the mouse. Or you freak out and you throw a plate down and it was the plate you inherited from your mother and this whole drama comes up, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we never know. That's the juicy
It
part
forces
of it.
you to be very, very present.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of life, when you really are present and not
Yeah.
living
Right.
in the past or the future.
Yeah.
So you're bringing all of this to the stage,
Mm-hmm.
all of these wonderful personalities that you both are, you know, and sharing with us the development process, but from an intellectual teaching point of view, like a TEDx.
It's together funny. I think the teaching is more hidden. It's not really that we're like,
Oh,
now
no.
listen to this. It's really more like a
It really is.
edutainment.
But it's also really an intimate conversation.
Yeah.
You know, where we're being vulnerable.
Yes, very
We're
long.
telling the truth about our struggles. So and if there's any teaching, it's kind of for ourselves. We're not trying to tell the audience anything. We're really, this whole show is talking to us.
It's a
I
conversation.
mean, this whole show is a living teaching for us. So what is the show about? It's really asked the question, is my worth dependent or attached to anything? Is my worth dependent on my bank account? Is it dependent on my success? Is it dependent on my failure? Is it dependent on my age? You know, I mean, that is, to me, the most profound question there is to ask. And it's not like we're on the other side and we're enlightened and now we know the answer and now we're sharing that with the audience. I mean, what makes this show so interesting for us is that every time we do it, we're thrown back into that question, and I struggle with it. I mean, I think we all do. I mean, it's much easier to feel really good when something good is happening, and then when that good thing stops, then you feel bad. Why do you feel bad? You feel bad because you thought that, you were attached to feeling good. So as an artist, how do you assess your worth? I mean,
And I think a good example is what we've been just going through recently, Marcia and I, with this show, where we really had almost put so much pressure on this show to be successful, be like, but this is a show about success, failure, and almost like, this is our anchor now, this is going to be our savior, kind of, and we arranged a tour, and we were very successful when we were honest. We sold out and we broke box office records, and we won the Audience Choice Award in Maui. But then we fell into this hole with it, and we were almost at a point where we're like, what is it all for? Maybe we should just quit. It's like such hard work. It has become hard work in a way. And then to come back, to take a step back and come back into the lightness of it. And why did we even start it? Because we met through fairies, because we love each other, because we want to just create.
Oh, that's excellent that you have each other to remind each other of that too.
Yeah.
Okay, we have to take our second break, but we'll be back in just about a minute. Please stay with us. We're going to continue the conversation about fairies and the theater and everything else.
Okay, this is Think Tech Hawaii, and it's Wednesday. Every Wednesday is Energy Wednesday here in Hawaii, the state of clean energy. 4 to 5 p.m. every Wednesday. Come and listen to us. And just to show you what I mean, I'm going to ask Sharon to tell us more.
Come and see us every Wednesday, as Jay said. And we have people like Jim Albers from HECO here and co-host Ray Starling here every Wednesday. We not only go on Olelo and OC16, but also stream live. So please come visit us, hear about the latest in clean energy.
Okay, Jim, you've been here. You got any comment on all this?
As important as energy is in all of our lives today, this is a great forum and a great format to vet those issues. So I encourage everybody to listen in and participate.
Okay, Ray, what do you think for a close?
Well, I think this is the greatest show in the energy world here in Hawaii. You can come here every week, 1 hour, and catch the latest on what's happening and hear from the people who really know what's going on. Like Jim Alberts, we appreciate your coming today.
Thank you.
Ray Starling, Sharon Moriwaki, Jim Alberts, and Jay Fidel here in Hawaii, the state of clean energy. 4 to 5
Aloha.
p.m. Wednesday. Aloha.
Aloha.
Hi, we're back on Center Stage. I'm your host, Donna Blanchard. I'm talking to Lucie Lynch and Marcia, Zina, Warrior Princess Major. I can't say it without saying that. And we have a tweet asking us, aloha, Donna and guests, where can we find your book and see this play? Well, you say where you can find the book.
The book can be bought on Amazon.com. Just put in the title, Believing in Fairies, and my name, Marcia Zina Major. Fairies is spelled F-A-E-R-I-E-S. But as long as you put in my name, my other books will come up.
Your other
as well.
books are up there too.
Yeah.
And you can see the show at Kumu Kahua Theatre
Yes.
on the, we just said it, 17th, 18th, and 19th of April. And you can go to our website for more information. You can also go to their website, I Love Money Talks. ilovemoneytalks.com. We're kumukahua.org. You can purchase tickets on their website, ilovemoneytalks.com, or you can also come to the box office 45 minutes before the show will open up, 7:15, all 3 nights. I don't know that people want to wait that long. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
They might want to go ahead and
right.
get them online. Okay, so if we could talk a little, because I get the impression that you've really explored this conversation, attaching money to art in the same way that it attaches to value. It must have some of the same definition. It certainly does for me. There have been times when I've been very hesitant to be paid, even though I needed the money, because I've been through that time in my life where I sort of, the show was that monster lurking at the end of the day that I had to go to pay my mortgage. You never wanted to be like that. So I became hesitant. I got out of the world of professional acting and then started to do it as a hobby, and then became hesitant to, I didn't really want to get paid for it again.
Oh, see, it's
Oh,
so
interesting.
interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's this, money is just this interesting creature, isn't it? I mean, and again, I mean, I think that's like we have a hip hop song in the show called "What's My Worth" that we released on iTunes that we both sing. I rap, and Lucy has the real voice in the show. She's the real voice of an angel. But I mean, that's the question. Is like, why do I have to attach my worth to anything? I guess what I'm trying to say, I'm babbling, is my worth inherent? I mean, I think that's the profound question. Is my worth inherent? And if my worth is inherent, then whether I get paid or I don't get paid, people
really
like
matter.
me or don't like me, does not diminish or enhance my sense of worth. And if you and I and Lucie and all of us really could abide in that inherent worth, then we would have the freedom, we would be liberated enough to get paid or not get paid. But
Yeah.
but because it's so attached, then it becomes this whole thing, well, I don't want to get paid, but why not? But
Right.
it's only because you can't separate the two. And that's what, we're exploring. We keep exploring, that the show explores.
And then
you
always,
know.
what is the number? Then you put a number to it, and then it works. And then, oh, maybe we didn't ask for more. Maybe we should have asked for more. Or maybe, huh? So it's always, it's a very, it's a territory that we're exploring through this show as well. In our private lives, and with this show now. What is it worth? What are we worth?
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole phenomenon of likes, right? Facebook likes.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, yeah.
Right, and people I'm going through a phase, I'm on Facebook, but I'm going through a phase where I don't want to go on Facebook because every time I go on Facebook, I feel like crap. Why? Because everybody looks like their life is better. Or I make a post and I don't get very many likes, and somebody makes a post and they get 500 likes. I mean, this is ridiculous. But so this really speaks, I think, to this deeper question of, is my worth inherent?
Yes, and of course it is. Of course it is. I remember I had this
I don't know if
plaque.
Donald Trump would agree with that. But I mean, I'm using him as an example
Yeah.
just because, for people like him, I'm not saying all wealthy people like this, but I think wealthy people suffer from this just as much. I mean, we've had millionaires in our audience. And,
They were moved to the core.
Right, I mean, because, what's interesting is about millionaires or billionaires is so they've accrued all the things that we all think we want. And at the end of the day, they go to bed and they're depressed. Imagine that. So then it's like, well, then it's not money, and it's not the cars, and it's not the house, and it's not the beautiful wives or the handsome husbands. Then who am I? What is it? I mean, that's why, to me, this is the 21st century question to
It
ask.
is.
And then we seem to all know it's about the happiness inside, independent of all of that. But yet it still seems to be triggered by outside circumstances. Even when somebody tells me, oh, and I just fell in love with this guy, but I'm so happy now. And then you can already feel like, let's talk again in 2 weeks. And sure enough, 2 weeks again later, you're on the phone and it's like, oh, it's all so horrible. And then you're like, oh, wow, so where did that happiness go?
Well, because that was chemicals.
Yeah,
That was chemicals surging
and it's
through your
attached
body.
to something there, right? So
Yeah. So if you don't have the chemicals surging through your body because you've got something really great going on, then you have to manufacture or somehow recognize within yourself that no, just by virtue of being here and being who I am, it's hard to do. I find I'm a product of the '60s and parents who went through the Great Depression, and I was raised to and a fundamentalist Christian.
Oh, wow.
So I was pretty much raised to believe that I don't have worth unless I work my butt off and I go to church on Sunday and do all of the right things that I was raised to believe are the right things.
But I think the irony is that I think everybody suffers from that. I mean, now we'll go a little deeper, and we do touch on this in the play also, this idea that that doing something means you're worthy. And so if you don't do, if you just be, if you just sit, I mean, there are not very many people in modern life that could go into a cabin for 2 weeks with no cell phone and no computer and no escapist literature and not flip out. So what does that say? So that I'm bringing it back again, because then it becomes, maybe maybe my worth is not attached to money, but my worth is attached to doing, to proving, doing,
to do something.
Right, and the great
Doesn't
spiritual
matter what it
teachers
is.
all point in the direction of that our divine glory is independent of our doingness. And that's a very profound thing to just ponder, whether you agree with it or not. I mean, and we touch on these things here in the show in very entertaining ways, not in any kind of,
and which doesn't mean that we shouldn't do things, Yes, do things you're excited about, but not for the case of the results of whatever results, the car, the success, the money, just do it because you want to do it. And
Yeah.
then it's, and that's, both the tie where we now, what I wanted to say is that we come back to this, we want to come back to the just love doing this show because it's good, it's a teacher for us, it might be a teacher for other people out there, it might be just an inspiration, it might bring somebody to tears, to laughter, but just because we love,
Yeah, we
just love.
I mean, the irony is that our worth got very attached to the show. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
so
know.
that's what I'm saying. It's this, right? How could it not? Oh, you won the Audience Choice Award, or you know what I mean? Now, your ego gets involved, and we notice that we're feeling more stressed and less fun, and we don't want this show to be a burden. This show is, I mean, I think we both feel like this show was a gift, just like that hibiscus bush that spoke to me. That was a gift, and this show. And the way it all fell into place and how we were brought together, and we performed it for the women's prison. We performed it for recovering drug addicts. We performed it for church congregations. And it's a gift. And I think it's really important for both of us to keep remembering that, as opposed to getting our own identity and worth attached to, well, how many people are going to show up in Kumu Kahua? And if only 25 people show up, well, does that mean I'm a pice of crap?
Does that mean we
right?
should never do it again? Or
Right.
Don't let it mean that.
And the other way around. And if we sell out in all three, well, so now it shouldn't mean that either. We want to do the show because the show wants to be done, not because a certain number of seats are filled.
Good.
Good.
Yeah.
You did win an award at the Maui Fringe Festival. You have had quite a bit of acclaim for the show, and I'm guessing that has happened because so much of it has come from your hearts and to intelligent people. That
right.
you're not doing it for the fame. You're not doing it for the, you're doing it because it's a real conversation that you're
Right.
having.
And we were doing it because it was born because we had to do it. And then, and plus we sing and we dance and the songs are goofy and we make fun of network marketing and Donald Trump and, but it's all very personal. And, I mean, we a long time ago, we made a decision, we could have gone down the road, should we make this show political because it's about money? But we
decided no.
interest, and we were working with Donald Trump in the show long before he became the presidential candidate. So there is a moment of Donald Trumpness in the show,
Yeah.
but it's just a reflection of, he just represents somebody who has a lot of, he just represents money in the show, not the presidential candidate.
Presidential candidate. So I think the beauty of theater, and I, as a director, have always told my casts that what the greatest importance in the work that we're doing is not what happens before the curtain comes down, it's what happens after when the audience leaves and has conversations about the work. And so I don't want to do a show unless it's going to be able to inspire conversation, and I bet some incredible conversations have come from people after seeing your show. Have you had a lot of feedback from your audiences?
Yes. So for me, it's specifically, I go a lot to Whole Foods, and I meet a lot of people, and also as a songwriter, a lot of people know me, so it was really beautiful to get all the feedback, like especially after we sold out the Fringe, and have all these people come and share specifically how it touched them in the core, how they were moved by it, how they were inspired to make changes. We had a Q&A at the Drug Rehabilitation Center,
Right.
and there were 120 Pacific Islanders. In the beginning I was even a little scared, like
80%
tattoos
men.
and-
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, that was the first
Yeah.
time we performed the show, yeah.
And we are done, and we're like, okay, do you guys have any questions maybe, or some comments or feedback? And this one guy specifically just got up and was like, with tears in his eyes, like, you gave me a new direction, you gave my life a new purpose, thank you so much. And then we started crying, and it was just so moving to get that form of feedback, that it actually touched people and
Yeah,
moved
it
them.
happens all the time at every show. We get, people are very moved because it's both funny and moving, and we've had millionaires, we've had homeless, we've had recovering drug addicts, inmates, educated theater goers, and that's what's really spurred us on, because, you know, when we performed the show for the first time, we had no clue. We were like, I don't know, is this good? I don't know. 'Cause
Yeah, what is this?
We were just having fun at Ward Mocha Java
Yeah.
Cafe. I mean, and it was the first time we ever performed it was for these recovering drug addicts at Habilitat, and we were very scared. We didn't know what was going to happen, and that was a turning point for us, because to see these were 80 scary looking guys from the, you know, with tattoos and, you know, we standing ovation. It was like, oh my God, maybe this is good. You know, we had like no clue.
And then the ego comes in again. Yeah, okay, if they like it, I don't know, maybe the theater, you know, the people that usually go to theater, they might not like it. And then we broke the box office records at the Fringe and standing ovations there. We're like, maybe it is kind of...
We're always like, well, maybe it is a good
maybe
show.
there is something good about, because it's really literally just us sharing, you know, in an entertaining way, but it's really a real conversation, and it's all 100% true what we're sharing.
Everything in the show is
true.
100% true. So, and I think that's unusual. I think people that go to the theater, especially, unless it's specifically said that way, it's usually a fictionalized thing, right? I mean, often it's a play that is inspired by, it's a drama, right?
at least,
And people are playing characters. Well, we're not. We're up there, and I say to the audience, I don't have a retirement fund because I was stupid. I'm 61, and my husband and I don't have money for retirement. I mean, that's the truth. I mean, I think a comment like that already, the people in the audience are like, whoa, her too?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and then, so, I mean, honesty, we're so committed to to be authentic and to be vulnerable, you know. And then, you know, we have the Broadway work in progress aspect of it, which is very goofy and a lot of fun, and we jump into the characters, but always we come back to us talking to the audience, so.
I think that's awesome. I cannot wait to see the show.
Yeah.
I hope you become millionaires off it. That'd be divine.
I know, that'd be
irony
great,
of it all.
right, that'd be great.
So I want to make sure everyone knows, you're seeing more pictures of it now. The show Money Talks and What the Hell Is It Saying will be at Kumu Kahua Theatre the 17th, 18th, and 19th of April at Kumu Kahua Theatre. You can get tickets by going to ilovemoneytalks.com. And also please do look for the books. If you go to Amazon.com and put in
If you put in Marcia, Zina, Major, Believing in Fairies, we also
have a book together
We also have
already.
a book that we wrote together that we sell at the performances, and it's called What's My Worth? Discovering the Priceless Treasure of You. So it's a little mini book that they also can buy at performances, plus we're in the process of writing a bigger book. But we forgot to mention, we do have a book, and they can buy that on Amazon
too, yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so people who aren't here on the island,
Exactly.
you can hook up with these ladies somehow. Thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
being so tenacious to get your show in.
Oh, thank you for acknowledging that.
I'm really glad that you did. It's not my call, but I was like, Harry, I think you should listen to these ladies. I really think they got something. So thank you for being here also. I hope you can come see the show and check it out. There's a few more people I'd like to thank. Rich Prapus, who is our floor manager, he's right over there. Thank you, Rich. I'd like to thank Zuri Bender, our studio overlord, who is in my ear, and Jay Fidel, who you just heard laughing out in the green room, who somehow puts all of this together. Thank you. We'll see you next week on Center Stage. Bye.